All right, previously we went through the different logical connectives and talked about what they look like, how to understand them, and we also considered some alternative symbolization for these different logical connectives. And we talked about how they connect to different either atomic statements or other more complex statements. And these are what we need to use in order to bring different statements together, right? So just as a reminder of what we're working with, we've got negation here, which means not. It is not the case, right? And the symbol we're using is the tilde, which is right there. And then we also have conjunction, which means and, so it's A and B. And the symbol that we're using for conjunction is the dot. That's going to be what we use to conjoin different statements together. We have disjunction, also understood as the or, and this is going to be symbolized with the V or wedge, right? It's either this or it's that. And so that's the symbol that we have for disjunction or the or. Number 4, we have conditional statements or the if-then statements. And the symbol that we're using for this particular logical connective is called the horseshoe. And then 5th and finally, we've got what's called the biconditional logical connective, also sometimes understood as equivalence or material equivalence. And the symbol that we're using for this one is the triple bar. I should also mention that conditional statement is also sometimes understood as material implication, right? But either way, these are the 5 different logical connectives. Previously we went through those, so I'm not going to spend any more time doing that. What I want to do in this video right now is kind of go back and look at some of the different English words that we have that we can use to identify which logical connective is being used. Obviously if we've got not, then that's pretty clear. If we've got and, that's pretty clear. If we've got or, that's pretty clear. If I've got an if-then, like if it's raining, then it's cold outside, something like that, well, that's also pretty clear. Biconditional usually says something like if and only if, but there are different ways to understand each of these logical connectives, meaning there's different words that we can use, commonly use in our English statements, our English sentences, that will refer to each of these different logical connectives. So that's what I want to do now. It's on your handout on the second page of the, which is the 6.1 Symbols and Translations. So pay attention to it, but I want to just kind of go through these quickly, so that way when you do the homework, you understand what's going on here. All right, so beginning with negation, which is a So then beginning with negation, the negation, remember, is a unary logical connective, so it operates only on a single statement, not on multiple statements. And the words that usually we can use to identify a negation, in addition to a word like not, something like, it is not the case, or it is false that, or something similar to that. It is not the case, it's false that, and so on and so forth. Now, with regard to conjunction, there's lots of different examples we can use here, right? I've already given you and, but there's also, we have words like yet, right? So if I say, I'm hungry, yet I'm also busy. That's another way of saying I'm hungry and I'm busy, right? So yet can be used as and, or conjunction. We also have but, right? But can be used as and. It means the same thing. We're conjoining things together. We also have however. We have moreover. We have nevertheless. And we've got still, and also, and although. And we have a very, very common one, which seems pretty intuitive. We've also got both. So oftentimes both will be used to represent the conjunction. It is both this and that, right? And we also have additionally, right? That one seems pretty clear because we're adding something together. And then we also have furthermore, right? So anytime you add one of these statements, you're extending the statement even further. You're adding something else to it. You're conjoining one thing with something else. Right? So any one of these words can be used for conjunction. Now what about disjunction? I've already got the word or here, but the other thing to pay close attention to is this word unless. Unless can often be used to represent the disjunction or the or. Now, with regard to the conditional statements, the material implication, which is the horseshoe, this one also has a lot of different examples or different ways that we could say this. But we got to be careful because it's going to show up in different ways at different times. Right? So here I've got if and I've got then. But I could also say only if, or maybe the if comes in the middle. Right? So another way of saying that is maybe the if comes in the middle of the sentence. Right? I might say something like, well, tomorrow is Saturday if today is Friday. I might say implies, right? Given that this is the material implication, then if we say something implies something, then that suggests it's a conditional statement. We might have given that. We might also say just in case, or we might say provided that, or we might say on the condition that, or we might refer to either sufficient conditions or maybe necessary conditions. But not both, right? That will actually apply to biconditionals. So let's move on to biconditionals then. Biconditionals, remember, we oftentimes say, refer to this as if and only if. And the reason why is because essentially what we're doing is conjoining together two different conditional statements. If A, then B, and if B, then A. Right? So the implication goes both ways. If A, then B, and it's also the case that if B, then A. Right? So it's called a biconditional because we're literally conjoining together two different conditionals. And that makes the equivalence extremely strong, which is why sometimes we say that this is actually going to have both the necessary and sufficient conditions. Right? So that's what we mean by if and only if. Another way to put this, though, is it's equivalent. Right? Clearly, if it's the material equivalence, then we can say it is equivalent. Or sometimes we think about this in terms of a definition. Right? So these are different ordinary ways of talking, ordinary English, where what we are saying is actually referring to some particular logical connective. Some logical connective that's putting together some other statements, or that are operating on some other statements. Right? So for instance, the negation is a unary logical connective that's operating on a single statement of some form, whereas all the others are binary. There has to be some form of a statement that's flanking either side in order for it to be a well-formed formula. Right, so I just wanted to go through this to make sure that you're clearly understanding what's happening in order for you to be in the best position possible for the homework for this particular module.